Come closer. Who said you can't be creative while beating a cap? Hmm. Today, you know what? I'm taking on the ultimate beading challenge with this tricky fabric and turning it to a lovely beaded masterpiece. As you can see, I absolutely love this design. I know. You're like, that can be tricky, eh? Look at the fabric they use, it is easy now. But it is challenging. Honestly, I'll be sharing the reason why I said so with a little backup story on how it all started shortly. Hey loves, welcome back to Sherifa Shaba channel. If you are new here, you can call me Sherifa. And I love bringing unique fashion DIYs and styles to life. To all my returning subscribers, you are the real MVPs. And if you're yet to subscribe, please subscribe as it means a lot to me. And thank you so much as you do so. This black cap might look simple, but the fabric and materials used make it quite a challenge. Look at it, it's so hard. But trust me, the results are worth it. Have you ever tried beading on a fabric like this? Let me know in the comment section and watch me as I turn that tricky fabric into a beaded masterpiece like this one. Materials used for this project include crystals. It comes in strands like this, and you have to get the glass crystals and not the plastic one for glitters, broken beads, needles, thread, scissors. Now, look at this cap. Can you see? I was given this cap to bead in 2 days, and I was like, cool, that should be fine, without realizing how difficult that task would be. And that's because of the Marco leather used inside it, coupled with the fact that the fabric materials are airy and will keep pulling up pulls if not inserted properly. Because of its hardness, I couldn't bend it as I should to bead, and that makes it quite difficult. I decided to beat the edges first since I can easily maneuver that and start with the midpoint later on. So I started with the slanting beating and I had to lose and lose over again because it wasn't as neat as I expected. Can you see? It's not neat. It's not laying side by side as it should. So I had to start with the down part and see how that goes. If you've watched my previous videos on beading, you should know by now that the first thing you should do before beading is needle testing. If the bigger needle that is size 9 and 10 pass through your bead, then good luck. You should stick with that because that will make your beading easier, especially when you are passing your thread. But if not, sorry, you have to use size 11, which I'm using right here. Then you tie a knot after passing your thread and pass it through your fabric to tie multiple knots as well to keep the starting point from losing. Because of these challenges I encountered first before even starting the main work, I mean, the cap was not staying in place and it kept dancing throughout. Then I realized I should have charged more or beat the fabric before the cap was coupled together. I think that is a better option. But what's I have to face it right now. Slant beading can be tricky depending on what design and the part of the design you are working on. For the edge of this cap that I am beading, and if you are aiming to achieve this design as well, you need to pick three beads and slant it backwards or forward, depending on what's convenient for you. I'm using three beads because it gives a moderate look. So if you have a specific design in mind, feel free to pick the required amount of bead for your project. Note that the first slant determines how the rest of your slants will lay. So ensure that the tip of the next slant should align to the end of the second bead for the previous slant you did. Because of that, your slant beading should automatically extend outward towards the edge of your cap by one bead difference so that it lays flat. And then you can continue the whole process all over again like that. Pay close attention to how I bead it for better understanding. My thread got shortened, which is quite normal while beading. What you have to do is tack multiple times at that point to keep your beading in place. And you need to remember that no matter how you tack, it should not look tacky, of course. Okay, so you can hide it behind beads. And before you cut the thread out, pass it into your fabric and drag a little bit so that your thread and knot is kind of drag inside your fabric for a clean finish. You get, so by the time you are cutting with scissors, you are not seeing any thread. You need to try this right now yourself so that you can understand what I'm trying to explain better. After that, you need to tie another knot after you must have passed your thread through your needle, and the knot should be behind the bead. So while you want to pass your thread, you need to pass it behind your beads in order to continue the whole process. And I'm almost done here. I just had to link the bead to the initial bead I started and tie a knot to just secure everything in place. After I did that, the first part that I told you that I wasn't getting it, so I had to loosen that part and try again to see how the beading goes. And after I beaded the edge of the cap, I realized that I've gotten a little hang of how I can do the upper part. And I just had to bend it a little bit and place my hand in a different kind of way just to ensure that I can now bead easily. You get? I tied a knot just to secure this part again in place because my thread is shortened. There is a lot of that when it comes to beading, no matter how long your thread is. So you need to know that. I personally don't like long thread as it slows work down and it can even get tangled while you bead. So I try as much as possible to avoid that. Also, there are various ways in which you can pick your beads. If you don't like the deep technique that I used in this video, all you have to do is wrap a tape around your thumb, then the gum on it will make the bead stick to your thumb when you dip your hand into your bowl of beads. And you can pick your beads from there. Try whichever one is convenient for you and work with that. So moving on to the next step, I decided to use crystals after much trial and error at that midpoint with the slant beading. But it wasn't working at all because I couldn't bend the cap as I should to get my needle to pass through it. My needle was even so stressed from all the hard work I was putting it through at this point. Oh my dear. But I knew if I am to use just crystals at this point, it won't really blend well with the edges. It won't give this volume. So I tried to bead with slanting, and guess what? It came out perfect. So I drew out the line round and I tied a knot, of course, to start my beading. And after doing that, I started beading with slanting, just with the method I showed you earlier on how to bead the edges of the So if you didn't watch that part properly, you need to do that in order to get the idea of how this beading really works and understand properly. So the next thing I did was to bead with my crystals. Now I can now work with my crystals because at this point, crystals are needed, of course. So I marked the midpoint of that center that I already did slanting to the edges on both sides, and I started beading with crystals with straight stitches. Can you see? So look at it. Look at it. Gorgeous. So remember to always keep your needle from getting to the lining of your cap. We don't want that part to look all tacky, to look all messy. Now, hold up. The end of this cap really gave me a hard time. It was at this point I really wish the cap was not coupled together. I mean, I wish it was not sewn together before I had to bead it. That is, the head separate and the stand separate. It was so difficult than I expected. My clients were running from each other basically, and I could not even follow a proper circular line. I so wished that I tripled the price for this project. But what can I do? The first part was a total sore in the eye. So I left it to start with the second line, and I like how it turned out. Another method to start your beading that I didn't tell you before is to pass your needle through the lining of the cap, that is from the wrong side, and drag the needle outside. You don't have to drag too much. The aim of this is to ensure that your knot is in between the lining and the outer fabric. So you just have to drag your lining a bit so that that knot falls directly in between your lining and your main fabric. So you drag your needle outward and you can tie a knot under your beading, and you continue the whole braiding process just like you see me doing. Please subscribe to my channel for more content on fashion, and remember to turn on the post notification bell to get notified when I post a new video. I hope you've clicked on the subscription button. If you haven't done so, just please subscribe, please. And don't forget to like and share so others who would find this kind of video useful can see it too. We don't gatekeep here, remember. Thank you as you do so. So I finished the second line and it's set as I expected it to. And I loosened the first line. As you can see, I'm cutting out the beads out with scissors. You need to be very careful at this point in order not to cut out your fabric, of course. So you need to be careful while you use your scissors to rip these beads off. Carefully just cut out the beads out and the thread as well. In my previous video, I talked about spacing out your beading along curved edges. That is the edge, you space it out so that it's properly spaced out, but make sure that the other side is enclosed. Just look closely. The other side is so enclosed, but the edges of that beading is spaced out along the side. If you haven't seen that video, please check it out for more clarity. Added crystal bead to the midpoint of both lines. After I drew lines with chalk, I added crystals to add more volume and of course glitters. Can you see? And I traced the edges of the broken bead of the slanting beading. I traced it with crystals as you can see. I just kept on with the straight stitch, pick the point where the one crystal bead is supposed to end, and I picked another crystal bead right from that point, just like that. So you just need to keep picking your fabric and inserting crystals. And our cap is ready. If you find this video useful, give it a thumbs up and comment your thoughts and suggestions down below. I would love to see them. Remember to subscribe and share to others as well. Until I drop another video, stay tuned, stay blessed. Bye for now.